And that's our cue to turn the page. Everybody knows that God hates computers, and I do too. I just had the computer eat my crap again, but I'm going to go with my notes. I'd like to welcome the few of all of you, the proud, to another installment of the Buttered Toast. We are a local group of crazy folks who talk to squirrels often. The show is called Get Close to the Squirrel. They're rabid, and as always we have a few memorabilia, paraphernalia to give away to people, whoever wants them, during and after the show. This is laminated, 2 sides. We have stickers and magnets and stuff like that. Your hands move like another's across your body, caressing your nipples and that little spot above your butt crack. She was 18 and all over you, and you wonder why she ever left. Like some crazed animal, fast and anxious, yet with rhythm and grace and endurance. She would wake you in the dark, early winter mornings. Snow, the moon, and naked bodies. Now you know exactly why she left. Yeah. Hesitation is my downfall in the days of flesh flashing across the computer screen. It's a Packard Bell, and the professor or teacher comes up beside me, behind me, and I don't quite notice. She's checking out my Excel program, but the orgy of flesh and breasts and oiled bodies is upon the screen. And she bends down. She doesn't say a word, and it's not even so much her eyes that speak to me as her breasts. And I lean a little closer. I look into the wild, cavernous I look into the cleavage that is like a wilderness canyon, and I almost feel the cool breeze scented with mountain flowers. The nipples free from any constrained manufactured holders pointing in my direction. And her hand is hard and stings deep into my face. But before I catch all my senses, I pick up my glasses and my backpack and leave, the whole class watching. But it was early in the semester, so I just dropped that class. She passed me by, her eyes upon me as if I were a familiar specter from her dreams or a past reality. I met her in the stacks in the basement of the library. I was probing Milton mathematically with my undergraduate mind. She was across the bookshelf in the next aisle, almost in ecstasy with Donne. I heard her heavy breathing and saw her flushed cheeks and buried my eyes deep into Book 9 of Paradise Lost, but Book 9 was Blake's wall and my ears. My consciousness and my, attention flew out the window of my ears and listened to her. Finally, I looked up and she was staring right at me, smiling. She said something, but I couldn't hear it. It was silent, but each movement of her lips was a kiss. She said that we are slaves to the traffic lights of the sun and the moon driving our destiny. And for the first time in my life, I felt that I might have been poetic. And I said, let's walk away from it all together. Sometimes I awake in the night wondering, not knowing for certain if she had in fact survived that illness those years ago, if she actually recovered or if it was a dream that she still lived. I don't want to be with someone who lets fear stop them from doing what they really want. You sound like a fucking Nike commercial. Fuck you, you fucking corporate hippie bitch. Talking to her on the cell phone when she died. He heard the burbling of the stream and he thought how clear the digital cellular phone sounded. And there were 5 of them in a row, sitting in chairs in the foyer, dressed in suits and ties with Jesus Christ engraved on their name tags, all waiting to give blood. But a paycheck sedates the conscience of everyone. Every voice has only a price. And that was actually something I'm working on about, mostly sexy stuff, but damn computers. This is a little other stuff called Shotgun Rant and a Fresh Turned Leaf. It's about my kind of buddy, Eric, but not really. Nicotine-stained history of bone and teeth that cobble our streets in death and imagination. White splinters and threads marbling the black tar ribbon. He paused and listened to the air. The dead are not far from us. We are not far from dead. Eric was like that. He'd talk, all this imagination. You'd think that he believed it and lived it, but then the next second he'd be like a rabid squirrel gnawing at lead-based paint of our reality. And every time it was convenient for his finances or material gain, he would just bend over and fuck a friend. But he got his, and I got away. I had a separate place from him then. We had lived together for a while, and then we got separate places, so we didn't live together anymore. But we hung out anyway, and he went to jail, period, the end. I'd have to rewrite that part. But he used to cook a lot of sausage, and he'd stare at the sausage when it'd start to move in the pan back and forth. One thing I know for sure is there isn't room left on my credit cards for my education this semester. I'm being cut off from my corporate parents. They've been writing me nasty letters again. All right, this one is for Matt, and I'm off here, and Josh will be up next. Stanley Kubrick is dead, information in my head. Stumbling, stepping sidewards, trying to preserve the day, regain my balance in the dark red alleyway. I'm not drunk enough to drive. Stanley Kubrick is dead, an echoing idea in my head. What can we really take past the walls of sleep? Josh up next.
Again, called post-barbecue syndrome. God damn it. Margaret Olson's 7-year-old parakeet Winslow was stretched between 2 nails on her front porch. His feathers had been plucked, except for a not-so-tidy line down the middle that looked like those kids' hair that hung around the earring stand in the mall. She stood in the front doorway as the sun moved past the elm tree and pine bushes, streaming beneath the tin awning, and squinted down at the bird. Her face warmed in lines from the sun heating and drying her tears, and thought she might be bleeding. Her neighbors stood in circles on either side of her property line, some still in their robes holding their coffee, whispered and looked up with feigned pity and disbelief that this could happen in their neighborhood. Mrs. Hart, wife of the high school's history teacher and basketball coach, who everyone called Coach or Coach Hart, his first name, Robert, when it appeared in a local weekly, read just the initial or Coach R. Hart. Even at the block barbecues, the Firemen's Summer Carnival or PTA meetings, everyone called him Coach. She tried calling him Robert, but he just wouldn't answer. Mrs. Hart covered her mouth as she mouthed a long no or my God. Margaret couldn't tell which. Across the street, Carl, head of the block watch program, sent his 9-year-old son up and down the street, knocking on doors and made sure the entire neighborhood knew her house had been broken into. Broken into, she laughed. Her house had been ransacked, turned upside down, and basically raped. It was even worse since the police left. The birdseed from the tipped-over cage and ripped-open bag that was thrown all over the downstairs was trampled and mashed into the carpet. The plastic covering of the furniture had been ripped off, torn into pieces and burnt. Parts of it melted into the coffee table. The cabinets had been cleared out. Spilled dry goods and broken porcelain covered the kitchen and dining room. The upstairs was okay. Her shampoos were squirted on the walls, making somewhat of a green and cream lattice, but her bed left untouched. Whoever broke in had strewn her underwear on the floor like tiny rose petals, and the first time she walked up the steps, she felt flattered. She imagined the man's hands, the soft wrinkles at the knuckles and the thick fingertips, with a perfect smile tossing her underwear around. Then she saw his teeth darken, a few fall out and the rest yellow and chip. His eyes squinted and he laughed as he rubbed the underwear over his cheek and licked the crotch. Before the police came, she double-bagged them in lawn bags, took the ones she wore off and threw them away. She couldn't tell them that. It would end up as a first line, something like, "Local woman, Margaret Olson, came back to scattered underwear and a stretched bird." She'd have to leave town, change her name, abandon her daughter and husband. She walked over to the small desk in the corner. There were a few cobwebs connecting the door chimes with the banister. The mail was wet with what seemed to be water. The family pictures were flipped over and pushed to the floor. She knelt down and picked them up. Her daughter, Laura's kindergarten and prom picture frames were broken. She looked so different. In the first, she had small teeth, her hair pulled back into a ponytail that, if Margaret remembered correctly, went down to the middle of Laura's back. Margaret stood and placed the pictures on the sides of the wedding picture. They've been like this for 8 years. Margaret kept them there because Laura wasn't in the wedding picture. She remembered thinking Laura was there, right by her elbow, but after the picture, she saw Laura standing by her 16-year-old nephew, smiling. The next week, after the honeymoon, she put Laura on the pill. "Where is that child?" Margaret said to the clock. Whenever she felt compelled to ask, she always asked the clock. It had been an hour since she called her. Margaret started to scrape the birdseed into a pile with a piece of cardboard. She'd gotten in front of the couch finish when she heard Mrs. Hart say, "Oh, Laura, I'm so sorry. Anything, dear, you just ask. I'm so sorry. Who would have thought? Anything, you just ask." Margaret turned around and watched Laura bow her head as she walked through the paparazzi neighbors. They started to follow her toward the house, but when Margaret came to the door, they stopped. "Oh, Mom," Laura said. "Where's your father? Are you okay? I called him 10 times, twice at work. I can't believe it. He's not coming, is he?" "Mom, it's been 5 years," Laura said and turned in half circles looking for a place to set her purse. Margaret looked at the clock, said, "Maybe he'll stop by when he gets off work," and then slumped her head. 5 years and I still iron his clothes. I've even bought new ones because I ran out. I don't even use starch. They stood over the pile of birdseed. Margaret used her nails to pick at the burnt plastic on the table. Laura used her foot to brush some of the seed into the pile. Her leg moved like an old curtain, her knee and thigh moving, but her foot only sliding about a half inch. "Don't do that." "What?" "You'll just grind it in." "Do you want help?" Margaret didn't answer. She went to the door, shut it, and then walked past Laura as she stood with the same oval-mouthed dumbness like she did when she was 13 and wasn't allowed to get her nose pierced. "But Tara did," Laura had said. Tara's also going to be pregnant and drunk by the time she's 15, Margaret had been proud of that one. She didn't like talking about people, especially children, and especially that way. But it shut Laura up, at least about the piercing. But now Margaret knew she couldn't do much, let alone say anything. In the kitchen, she tried not to crunch the macaroni and spaghetti noodles in the linoleum. Each time she heard the crack, she couldn't stand the thought of how many nicks the floor would have. When she came back into the living room, Laura was sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette. "How many times have I told you? Mom, it's ruined. You still know better. It won't hurt anything. You'll burn it. Mom, it's ruined." Margaret turned on the lamp and stared down at her daughter. If she was younger, Margaret could slap her and knock that silly cigarette out of her mouth and that snotty look off her face. "You never listen." "Fine," Laura said and sat in a chair. "Is this better?" "Yes." "Where should I start?" "The kitchen. I can't bear it." Laura put out her cigarette and then walked around the couch, making a cross with her fingers and then smiled at her mother. "I wish you wouldn't do that." Laura just patted her on her shoulder and smiled bigger. She had large teeth, definitely her father's teeth, that didn't fit with the round cheekbones and narrow eyes Margaret had given her. They pressed out of her face, kind of like the underbelly of a colander. "It's nice having you home," she said. "You sold our home." "I'm always your home." "This never was," Laura said as she lit another cigarette and walked into the kitchen. "Jesus," Margaret heard her yell, "we'll have to go shopping." Margaret opened up the closet and pulled out the old Hoover vacuum. She thought about all the times at the house she would be vacuuming, look out at the kitchen window and see Laura. She would have been about 6 then, following her father as he cut the grass. She had one of those Fisher-Price poppers with the plastic gumballs that would fly around as the wheels rolled. Laura could never figure it out. "Tiny men throw them in the air," her husband had told her. Margaret remembered thinking by the time she was 40, one of those would be in her house, moving by itself, doing the vacuuming, and a mechanical arm would do the dusting. The curtains would be on timers with the lights. The fully utilized the sun, and they'd all sit down to a fully automated dinner with cuisines at voice command. "Scientists," she said. "Ha, all they do is make better video games." She pulled out the vacuum, made sure the black tape holding the plug on was secure, and plugged it in. Dust blew from the bag, and the light only shone from the left side. As she held the handle, she felt the birdseed clang against the tube. She imagined it swirling around, all the dirt and seed making a miniature tornado like that new clear plastic dirt devil, where you could see the stuff actually being sucked up. She couldn't understand that thing. Why the hell would she want to see the dirt? Isn't that why she was vacuuming? Besides, like she said before, if science can come up with a litter box you don't need to scoop, they should have a vacuum you don't have to push. It took a good half hour before the vacuum stopped making noise. The rug was hard in spots from the burnt plastic, burnt in others, and there were a couple of stains. Some were 2 years old, others from before she moved in, but the insurance company couldn't tell the difference. As she finished wrapping the cord and put the vacuum away, Laura came out of the kitchen. "Whoever did this was 4 cans short of a 6-pack, she said, and wiped her forehead. "Most of your dry goods are wasted, but only 2 of the plates were broken." "That's a nice, even number," Margaret said, and closed the closet door. She looked around. Aside from the burnt plastic, the house seemed normal. "How's the upstairs?" "The upstairs wasn't touched." "Really?" "Well, a little." "What?" "Just the shampoo." "What?" "I got it already." Margaret and Laura walked around the living room and den. Laura lit a cigarette and straightened the pictures of her grandmother and her. There were 7 of them, one taken every 3 years until 4 years before her grandmother died. She had skipped the one of her 18th birthday. Margaret was busy straightening out her exercise bike and stair step, which always reminded her of Laura's training pot if it would have had pink foam on the seat. Margaret made a half circle around the room, straightening, dusting with her finger and placing things in their right order. The plant on the left side of the oil lamp, the porcelain vase on the right side of the candlesticks, when she found herself in front of the wedding picture. She looked at the lake. It was such a calm day that day, a perfect June wedding, except for the police that showed up during the reception and confiscated the kegs. No alcohol on state grounds, they told her. But her dress had fit so well. The waist hid her stretched stomach, and it was fitted to make her breasts look young. She couldn't tell that she had ever given birth. It could have been her prom picture. Her breasts hadn't truly fell yet, nor had her behind got too wide. When she looked at the picture, she felt like she was 23 again, although she was 37 in the picture. She looked at Laura's prom picture and then at her. That night of Laura's prom, Laura asked her who enjoyed sex better, a man or a woman. Margaret had told her the only thing she could think of. Did you ever have an itchy ear, dear? Yes. And you scratched it, right? Yes. Which felt better, your ear or your finger? My ear. You're the ear, dear. She turned away and looked at the clock. Her mother had given it to her as a wedding present. That and a vacuum cleaner were all she had left from that old house. It's past 4:30, Margaret said. He's not coming, Mom. Maybe he'll call. He hasn't yet. Traffic's slow. Not that slow. Margaret picked up the wedding photo. She felt as if she were dancing, like this picture would give her all the world's courtesy and seduced her into a hijacking sleep, where she could hold a stranger's hand just to hear them say, I don't know. Her legs went numb and her ears rang like someone just smacked her. She felt a grain beneath her toe. It wasn't much, a tiny prick, but she felt it. She dropped the picture to the floor and knelt down to her foot. She picked the grain from between her toes and flung it across the room. Laura stood above her, picked at a dried blemish on her cheek and blew smoke from her nose. At Laura's knees, Margaret could taste her perfume. She knew it was a Walmart brand. Laura couldn't afford to shop anywhere else. Laura's teeth slid across the cigarette as she took it from her mouth. Again, she blew smoke from her nose, and Margaret thought she looked like the thinning hair of her husband, all wispy and wavy, curled every which way, whatever way it would go as long as it covered the increasing bald spot. Will you help me clean the porch, Margaret said. Of course, Mom. Margaret grabbed Laura's elbow and stood up. She felt her knees wobble and imagined the floors she used to envision that would move her around without having to walk. Scientist, she said and laughed. What? Nothing, dear. Margaret held on to Laura as they walked to the door. Her heart made her breast ripple, and she almost told Laura she loved her. When they came to the door, Margaret made Laura open it and leaned herself behind her shoulder. The sun had started to go down, and the shadow made its way across the porch toward the stairs. All the neighbors were gone, and the echo from the Little League field PA played an old recording of the Star-Spangled Banner. Across the street, Carl sat on his front steps, eating from a plate that still had saran wrap dangled from the side. By the stack of rolled paper towels and the way he held his arm, Margaret could tell it was leftover barbecued chicken from Friday's block party. I hope he chokes. What's that got to do with anything? He's intolerable. It's on purpose. He's mocking me. Stop being so paranoid, Laura said, and put her arm on her mother's hip. They walked to the steps and looked down at the bird. The sun had dried the blood, and 1,000 ants crawled over it and streamed in a line off the porch. With the sun going down, the sky was a nice orange. Muffled cheers came from the end of town, and chlorine filled the air. Margaret knelt to the bird and stared. Its skin was partially dried, and she saw the stretch marks in it like tiny cracks from where it was pulled to be nailed. An ant crawled from its eye socket. She looked at Carl as he licked his fingers and then wiped his mouth, throwing the paper towel to the ground. There was a dark burgundy ring around the bird, and Margaret looked up at Laura. Her round head, with its big teeth, rested on her lower lip, squinted down at her. She remembered giving birth to her. It was such an easy labor. Laura was so tiny, slippery, round and smooth as a marble, the doctor had said. She remembered a tiny pool of blood on the sheets. She couldn't believe that's all that came out of her. For the first 3 years of Laura's life, they called her Sponge because they thought that's where all the blood went. Margaret gripped the bird in her hand and squeezed. Are you all right, Mom? Your father never kissed me on our honeymoon, Margaret said, and peeled the bird from the porch, leaving one dull yellow feather.
I think that we should all salute the colors before I read. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read some poems. This first one is called The Advocate's Advocation. The three advocates are placed at the table with so many toothbrushes, so many pens and tubes and fluoride flavors, and pamphlets all laid out symmetrically like a plan on the table. They like that. They spread their arms 2 by 2 by 2. They are the whole table advocating their toothbrushes. They demonstrate on a passerby. They shove her into a chair and brush, all admiring the fine quality, the way the bristles work together in peace and harmony. They demonstrate the divine workings of the hand controlling the brush. The little bristles submit monstrously to the hand, invading every part of the mouth. The advocates are proud of the dexterity of a unitary hand. They have a dental plan, braces for the children and false teeth for the old. And they chant, "We three are the advocates, we three are the advocates. We can't stand a yellow tooth, so please step up to our booth. Our teeth will be white and straight, that is what we advocate." This next poem is called Anne's Poem. Anne went to India. She found a bucket full of dirty bread. She found a little place where children in barrels float down a river. She rang the chimes. They sang, "God, God, God." But an elephant with butterfly ears took her to a jungle where the razors are sharp. She is in India with green children floating in a barrel in hot brown water. Okay, and this one, well, Mother, give me a basket of 2 white apples, a rifle, your word, cleanliness, and my God, there are rodents in the field. I want to go out there. Please, Mother, let me wash their necks with a rope. Father, I am going into the field to plant lead flowers in the ground. I am going out with my pants stuffed with bullets. I am going to help you. The land is dirty. I am going to rip the weeds off the fields and burn them. I am going to shove my finger through the trigger ring and fire. I am going to shoot the badgers in their holes, hang their claws on the fence, and make this my land. This one is called Alone in the Pasture. Today I am 13. The day started with sun, scrambled egg, a pinch of beer, and a lamb's tongue tangled in the dead grass. Today I found myself with a razor in my hands, opening, closing the blade, and sun everywhere. I cannot hide the blade. There are no shadows. I do not want to be a man. Today, the afternoon, sheep, a headache, and a tumble in the alfalfa, a mother-molded tower of wax melting in the field fire. The ash grates across my eyes. I cover my face in a red rag, afraid to cry anymore. Today, the intensity of a tight wire, a castration band wrapped around the scrotum of a ram. Wandering in the light, I walk beside him. I see myself in a razor reflection. Today, I trip on plates of dried mud, and my nose bleed. Blood turns black in the dust. I crawl through the herd, the razor in my thigh where I know I'll find it. Today, the sheep's crusty lips scratch long and wet up my back. They lick my hair and I sweat. It is my salt they savor. I make mud in August with a razor. Okay, and this one's for Barbara. I've grown fond of the dawn. No, that's crazy poetics. Let me qualify that. The place that I am is between a blade of grass and a cow's slow tail. I've grown fond of ice, the ice that forms in the mud at 5 a.m., and the steam of shit. I've grown to love shivering beside a metal tank and listening to the cows sip the green water. The morning that lasts all day is cold and I'm too stiff to move. You put me here, Barbara. I didn't want it, but I've grown, Barbara, fond of the dawn. Everything moves backward. The sun comes over the mountain and I sit alone and am happy, Barbara. The sky in the morning is empty and even my bones are cold. They are the color of ice, the white threads of frost in the stiff mud. The flies are too cold to move. They are black and silent. Barbara. Black fly in a pile of bones. He's writing to Barbara. That's it. And this last one is about bucking bales. A red plastic ball splits the field into 700 dog tongues and a tail wag. I'm on the porch in denim waiting for the hay. The pants I wear are blue. The poodle swelters in the driveway. The poodle and my grandmother. My grandmother and her poodle bruised shins, black and blue and tissue paper shins. My grandmother comes down the stairs with a rolling pin. And still, but hush, but soft, the sprinklers, the red ball, and the hummingbirds strewn aggressively across the field. The hay, oh my dear friends, the hay like a clap of thunder or a can of tomatoes is not here. Oh, for thy hay is coming. My grandmother's girdle breeds maggots and I chew on a wasp. The air is hot and my pelvis yearns for just one bucked bale. A bucked bale in a field of lapping dog tongues. When the hay comes, when the cabinet overflows with tomato cans and I vomit wings, then, my brethren, shall my spit be alien green and my skin flypaper sticky with sweat. Hey, hey, hey! We put the poodle on the barn roof and listened to his little claws rattling all night like the rain. The doctor pulled a tumor out of my head. Is it like a grapefruit, I said. Yes, he said. You're wrong, I said. It's a bale of hay with a wasp nest inside. Hey, hey, hey.
It's the only way to be. Okay, this story is called Smooth Hands. I heard once said that pool was a game of angles. I don't know shit about angles, but I got smooth hands, see? You need a sweet touch on a shot, you call me. They say, hey Mikey, smooth hands, get over here. Got a sweet shot, needs a sweet touch. They say that. They want me because I make those shots every time. Some guys, like that guy over there, they just got power. Pow, smack. That's all you hear. More likely knock a ball off the table than find a pocket. Even if it gets to the pocket, probably smack off the back of the pocket and pop back onto the table. Sit there staring at you all by its lonesome. No, those guys don't know shit. They just whacking balls. Me, though, I play smooth. People called me Smooth Hands before I knew about pool. My dad started it. Called me Smooth Hands because he says I didn't work a day in my life. It's true, too. My hands are smooth like a baby's butt. Shit, I figure. Who needs work when you got a soft touch, right? Of course, I'm not really supposed to be in this bar, see? I'm too young, they say. But the owner, Big Daddy Pat, lets me come in because I sank a sweet shot for him. Won him a lot of money. He says, Smooth Hands, you my boy. You come anytime. That's why I call him Big Daddy, because I'm his boy. No one bothers me because of that. I drink all I want to, see? Being here, I see a lot. Hustlers, you want hustlers? I point them out. Get so you can see them, right? I pick them out. Hustler, bam, I see them. Take Sweet Pete over there. Hey, Sweet Pete, you a hustler? Hustle this, motherfuck. Hey, I show you where to stick that finger. Sweet Pete, a hustler, peer through. He knows angles. He knows English. Me? Fuck no, pardon my French. I just hit him, smooth, no English or that Massey stuff. But Pete, man, watch out. He suck you in, looks like he having a bad night, then bam, your wallet empty and his is full. Not just your money either, everyone's. That's Sweet Pete for you. I can beat him sometimes, you know, in a straight up game, no hustle. I mean, if I get a few breaks, right? But I'm lucky and I get a few drops when I shouldn't. I'm not the best, but even the best gotta lose the smooth hands every now and then. I don't know hustler, see? I play to win every time. I usually come in, take a few drinks, watch people. Then I plunk down my quarters. Chances are I'm the table all night, see? Regulars stay away because they know I'm good. Poor visitors, though, they come to play with friends, no tables open. They got to play me to get one. Poor fools never win. But I'll gladly take them. I just want to play. One night, right, I come in, do my routine, have a gin and tonic. Big Daddy started me on those. Says I like old with one, you know, sophisticated. So I'm drinking, and I notice a new guy playing Sweet Pete. Instantly I say, hustler. But not just any hustler, no, a hustler's hustler. He had Pete all wrapped up, see? This man, he's so good he don't have to lose to sucker you in. You can't beat him, but you die trying. Or your wallet does, leastways. Pete don't know, though. He's doing his routine. Miss an easy shot here, fluff one there. 2-3 games like that. But then I see Pete turn it on. He gets this twinkle in his eye and the left side of his mouth curls up. He starts sinking shots. But he ain't perfect, right? So he misses. Then it's over. Stranger runs the table. Pete swears. I don't know what he lost, but it must be good. He loses 2-3 more. Smashes his cue against the floor and snaps the end off. Now that's no bar cue, see? That's his pride and joy, right? One of those new screw job cues. Comes in 2 pieces. Smooth, dark, really sweet. But then he shatters it and storms out. Knocks over a few drinks doing it, too. Doesn't care, just gets out. First time I ever see him like that. I thinks to myself, this stranger good. Be a good game for me. So I plunk down my quarters and wait for him to school a guy. After that, I walk up to the rack. Hold up, he says. I want to get a drink. I says, I thought we play for drinks. No, he says, we play for something else. Smooths down the collar of his black suit. Man, it was the blackest I ever seen. His skin, too. Dark as sin, as they say. His teeth, though, they shine pearly white. And he is smiling at me. Biggest grin I ever see. And I see a sparkle in his dark eyes. They so big I don't hardly see any white in them at all. Want to smoke, he asks. Shit, yeah, I says. Smoke 'em all the time, I says. I don't really. Big Daddy gets mad if I do. Don't want to lose my drinks, right? But I gotta look tough, too. He hands me one. Light, too. Then he sips his drink. Martini. Smooth. What we play for him? Money, I ask? No, he says. Mostly just for fun. No bet, I ask. Just a friendly one, he says. I play for souls, he says with this huge grin. Shit, you the devil, I ask? He laughs. No, nothing like that, he says. I just don't need money or drinks. Souls is like a status thing. I don't know if I believe in souls, I say. Then you got nothing to lose, boy, he says. He fingers this gold chain coming out of his suit pocket. He don't need money, sure enough. How you bet a soul, I ask. Simple, he says. I got this form here. You fill in the blanks like it says. That marks your soul. Shit, that's just a piece of paper, I says. Exactly, he says. It's just a form of paper to show other people who you beat. You up to it? Think so. Your soul for mine, I says. Hell no, he says. Why the hell not, I ask. Your soul ain't worth as much as mine, he says. Why not, I ask. You ever go to church, he asks. No. You don't even believe in souls, he says. So the only thing of value to your soul is that you can play a mean game of pool. Not many find that too good for the soul. I thought you said it was just a piece of paper, I says. But it's the principle of the thing, he says. You got to have standards. Fuck. The kind of language don't help your cause either, he says. Don't feel bad. I got souls comparable to yours. He bends his long body over and reaches under the table. Pulls out this slick black leather case, right? Opens it up and pulls out a sheet. How about Anthony Jones, he says. Who that, I ask. Mr. Tony Jones, a.k.a. Phony Tony. Small-time pool player I met in Detroit. Like you, no religion, but decent shot. Shit, man, I says, I ain't no small-time player. You ever left the city, he asks? You ever shoot for thousands of dollars? No. You small-time then, he says. What a cocksucker. How I know that a real person, I asks. Best be careful with the hustler, right? Why don't you call him, he says. What? I got his number, he says, and a phone. Shit, I says, I don't know. Come on, I want you to, he says. He shoves the phone into my hands. So I dial the number. It starts ringing, right? What do I say, I ask. Ask him if he plays pool, he says. About the 4th ring, guy picks up. Hello, he says. His voice is all quiet-like, right? Hoarse. I can barely hear him. Is this Anthony Jones, I ask? Yeah, he says. Phony Tony, I ask? Yeah, he cuss. What do you want? You play pool, I ask? Yeah, he says. Then he adds, you got my soul? Shit, man, I says, wrong number. I hang up. I looks at the stranger and says, let's do it. First game, he starts missing some shots. Just a few here and there. Fuck's trying to hustle me. Me, man, I spotted him before we play and he still tries the hustle. Man's got balls, right? Big ones to go with his big asshole. So he lets me win one. Great. Phony Tony, you mine. But that ain't good enough, see? I mean, shit. He let me have it, right? So I asked for another. I'm not sure, he says. You won pretty easy. I'll pay for it, I says. I just want to play, right? Win this one square. Bet another, huh, he asks. All right, who? I think for a second. Then I asks, you got Sweet Pete in there? He grins again, lowers his hat, one of them fedoras, black and smooth. Sure I do, he says. You want it? Shit, yeah, I says. It'll toss the 2 you got, he says. What? Sure, he says. Sweet Pete, man, he goes to church every Sunday. Says a Hail Mary before every game. Don't you know that? Shit, no, I says. Man never drinks neither, he says. That's pretty good. Add the pool skills and it's your 2 for his 1. Okay, I says. So he racks and we're off. Second game, same as the first. He tinkers and whiffs, lets me win. Sweet Pete, you mine. but I still haven't gotten a real win. I'm getting sick of the hustle, right? Time to end this shit, I figure. How much I gotta bet for your soul, I asked. Well, take a hell of a lot more than you got, he says. You go to church, I ask? No, he says. Why worth so much then, I asks. Because I'm the best you ever seen, he says. Inside, I know this is true. He knows I know it too. But I gotta play along with the hustle to win, right? Fuck that, I says. I beat you twice already. You ain't the best, I says. That's what I'm supposed to say. It's part of the hustle, see? I mean, I knew he let me win, right? But I gotta act like I don't know that. I'd ruin his hustle, you see? Maybe I'm having an off night, he says. Look, kid, you're lucky now, but if we bet for my soul, you're gonna lose, plain as day. Forget that, I says. Put up or shut up. Fine, he says, but you're still gonna need a bigger bet. How about we throw Big Daddy's soul into the mix? I don't have his soul, I says. No, but you can get it, he says. You his boy, right? Shit, man, I don't want to get Big Daddy involved. He hates to bet anything but money. Sees everything else as a waste. He worries about me being hustled, too. But shit, if that's what it takes to end this, I'll do it. I'll be back in a minute, I says. Then I rip across to the back. Big Daddy always sits in back with some Philadelphia he got for the night. Big Daddy always says Sundays is for church, every other night is for whores. I asked him once why he pays for women. He says he don't like it if it ain't business. Sees paying for it as some kind of romantic thing. Says something about capitalism in America and apple pie. Shit, I don't know about Big Daddy sometimes. Anyways, I run up and he's jonesing on Miss Jonesy. I says, Big Daddy, I need something. Boy, your drinks is free. Leave me be, he grumbles. Big Daddy hates to be interrupted while he macks. It's not a drink, I says, it's a bet. I'm not giving you money tonight, boy, he says. I'm busy, can't you see? Yeah, I know, I says. Hey, Miss Jonesy. Hey, smooth hands, she says, all giggly, 'cause Big Daddy's got his hand up her skirt. I need you to sign a piece of paper for me, he says. What for, he asks. For your soul, I say. I needs to bet your soul. They both burst out laughing. My soul, he says? Boy, you is drunk. How you bet a soul? Shit, I says, it's not your real soul, just some paper. It's a game the man plays. What man, he asked. Over there, I tells him. Tall, black, smooth. Boy, that is a hustler, he says. I know, I says, and a real asshole to boot. Asshole, huh, he says. Maybe I should kick him out. Shit, no, I need to beat him square. Boy, he better than you, he says. So I says, I got luck tonight, and smooth hands. The hands is smooth, huh, he asks. It takes more than a soft touch. That man knows angles. Shit, even angles ain't perfect, I says. Besides, I ain't losing no money or shit. I don't know if I feel right about betting my soul. It's just paper, I says. Don't mean shit. Maybe to you, he says, but I like my soul. Don't want to take no chances. Big Daddy, no chances here, I says. Man himself says it's just a paper, that's all. Just paper, huh? Boy, how much money you got? You know I was broke, I say. Boy, if I do this, you're gonna run some hustles for me. Fuck that, I says. You know I hate hustles. Boy, you want the soul, you hustle. But I'm a peer player, I says. Hustle for the soul. It's like everyone trying to hustle me tonight, right? Fuck, I says. Okay, I hate hustles, but shit, I gotta end this. Give me the paper, he says. Then quick like he signs it, hands it over. For this boy, he says, you my hustler for a month. Got that? Yeah, I says. Then bam, I'm back across the room. I got his soul. Put up yours. Okay, boy, he says with a chuckle. He pulls out this old sheet of paper, all yellow and crumbly. Shit, what's with your soul, man? I says. It's falling apart. Boy, it's older than time, is why, he says. He gently lays it down. Man, it looks like the slightest breeze would shred that paper, right? Now, your souls, he says, all four of them. Wait a second, I says. What's with your name? I can't even read that shit. His name, man, it's all scribble, all scratchy, right? More like a picture than letters. He got some scratches, right? Then it sweeps back, like a backslash. Next to that is an upside-down anchor crossing over a fork. It only has 2 teeth and this little braid coming off of it. Weirdest fucking name I ever seen. Ancient writing for an ancient name, he says. That is my signature, boy. Spells Elamy. That's my name. Shit, who has a name like that, I asked. Like I said, ancient name. Now put up and play. Whatever, I says. Let's do it. So he racks. You want a cigarette, he asks. No, maybe after. Mind if I smoke, he asks. I ain't your mama, I says. Do what you want. That makes him chuckle as he lights up. And I swear to you, this smoke pours over the table. I mean, I know his bars is smoky and all, but shit, I can hardly see the balls, right? I mean, I'm not shitting you. There was this cloud bunched up under the Budweiser light that hangs over the table. I started to cough a little. It's so thick. What's the matter, boy, he asks. You gonna break or what? I can't even see the balls, I says. He starts laughing again. He leans onto the end of the table, right? Lowers his hat to his eyes and looks at me. He got a glint in his eyes and a big bright smile on his face. "Look here, boy," he says. "They over here," he says, and laughs again. Man, his laugh would grate you. Made me shiver. It was deep, throaty, but scratchy, right? Like metal scraping. And the smell of that smoke, man, like rotten eggs or something. I asked Big Daddy what it was. Says it was sulfur. I don't know, but man, it stinks. "Boy, break," he says. So I smack it. Can't see, can't breathe. Of course no shit drops. I mean, man can't see, can't breathe. How are you gonna sink a ball, right? Man laughs again. "Boy," he says, "you don't know what you started." Then bam, 1 ball, 2 balls. "You ain't playing this game," he says. "I'm playing you." Then he sinks another. Then just for fun, he misses one. On purpose, get my hopes up. Down 3 balls, and I'm getting a little mad, right? So I fan some smoke away and sink a ball. He laughs again. "Shit, asshole, I'm gonna run the table on that laugh. Run it clear out of here, line up, and bam, a scratch. Fuck," I says. "Fuck is right," he says. "Little boy, off." He smiles again. Fuck, I'd like to hit that smile off his face. Pulls out a little English and sinks another just to show he can. I mean, he could have had the other 3 balls. They were set, but no, he pulls out the spin to sink the impossible shot, because he knows, man, he knows he can win at any time. He got no shot now, though, so he plays safe. Laughs again. Fuck if I don't sink 4 balls. Soft touch, right? He laughs every time one drops. Fuck him, though. I got 2 balls left to his 3, right? Man, he runs the 3 and stares at the 8. Fuck, that's it, right? But no, that asshole misses on purpose. I know he does. He knows I know, and fuck, he just laughs. Man, I hate that. Play fair, play pure, I always say. But I sink my 2, even things up, right? And I'm angry. I'm ready to go. And the 8, he left it on the rail right near the corner pocket. I mean, this shot needs a soft touch, right? I make these all the time. Smooth hands with a soft touch. But fuck, I'm so angry that bam, power and shit. Ball bounces all around but doesn't drop, right? Fuck. And I leave him an easy out to the same corner. Fuck. He licks his lips and smiles. "Boy, it was good," he says, "but it has to end. You don't know what this is worth, man. Big Daddy Pat, that man a legend. One of the best. And he's mine now," he says. "Him, you, Phony Tony, and Sweet Pete. All mine." He laughs again. I'm getting a little nervous now. The way he's talking don't sound like we playing for paper. His voice is sinister, man, ready to kill. I mean, I think it's just a piece of paper, right? No such thing as a soul, right? But the way he laughs and talks and licks his lips like a dog, that get a man nervous. He looks hungry, man, like he's gonna eat me. I start getting nervous. No anger now, just the sick feeling washing over my stomach like I'm gonna puke. And his eyes are glowing. No shit, I'm starting to sweat a little. "Big Daddy Pat," he says, "you don't know how long I waited for this." He bends his long body over, takes an eternity to do, man, and lines up to fire. "Boy, I'm almost sorry to do this to you," he says, and not like he's sorry he gonna beat me. Sounds more like he killing me. But his smile shows he ain't sorry. He loves it. He hustles and I played along, all the time knowing it'll hustle and still got caught. Now I'm lost, 4 souls gone. "Boy, it hurts me to do this," he says and laughs. And that fuck, he closes his eyes to shoot. What an asshole. And not enough he wins, he got to show off. I hate an asshole like that. But he's set for the win, so he shoots. And misses. Fuck, it wasn't his fault. I mean, anyone would have missed because I moved the ball. Fuck, he was an asshole. Play fair, play pure. Unless you play an asshole, I always says. He deserved it. I can't stand a man that rubs it in like that. He closed his eyes, so I moved the ball. Shit, angle's no good if you got the wrong angle, right? I ain't no hustler, but I don't mind cheating an asshole. Well, he can't believe he missed. No smile, no laugh. Nothing. He just stands there while I sink the 8. Not bam, just a tap, soft touch. Smooth hands to the side pocket. It drops and I smile. I look at him and he's burning up. I mean, shaking, but all quiet like. His eyes got no glint, but shit if they aren't growing red. "Nice game," I says. "It's not over," he says. "I'll see you again. You won't like it." Then he pulls his hat all low, unscrews his stick, and puts it in his case. He bends down, snatches his case of souls, and leaves, pushing people out of the way. Well, shit, I haven't seen him since, right? But I'm waiting. Meantime, I still play. I used to play for drinks, sometimes money. But man, now I play for souls. So what do you say? You want to play? Hello? Hello.
I've got some poems to read. They're all old and you probably heard them before, but maybe you forgot them, so let's hope so. First one's called Divorce. Hello, Julia. Sitting at the dinner table, I'm eating poached halibut. Nothing but my boxers on. Does that arouse you? I wrapped up 16 pounds of yams and lentils for you yesterday. You never came. I wrapped with cheap tissue paper. It'll hold the lentils. But you know those yams are just screaming to get out. I once buried a friend up to his waist down by the paper mill ponds. He said that the mud down there stung like nettles his bare legs. I said to shut up and kept pouring mustard on his head as he sank deeper. He screamed like those yams do, but soon quieted, as they will. I haven't been to the beach in years, not since they started shaving rinds of earth from the pond bottoms, or since they brought in all the hippies from upstate Iowa to play flutes and wear their dirty pants. I sometimes wonder about you. I wonder if you'll ever take me there again, or if you're wrapped up in your petty celery sticks and cream cheese to care about the fact that my legs just don't work. We don't work, Julia. You so petty, me so feeble. It's time for old Tom Blathersmith to bring his cart and pull me back there. The hippies will accept me. The mud will take exception. This is called the backspace key. Oil poured into my mouth, hard wool rubbed my loins, and it was so hot. Her hair was that of dark superstition, deep black, woven of spider webs and greasy raven feathers. My chest pulsed with fear at opening her floating blouse, exposing her, and 3 were now 6, corrupted in pudding. Let alone for so long, one forgets his path and seems bothered by tree roots that dare interject opinions to his stride. And whence he trippeth, he remembers why he ever left home. Mother's brooding fingers picking stray hair from your jacket, father's overbearing whiskers stirring football values into your chocolate milk. But now exposed to the dancing aroma of sex and beer, vomit and the ever-present wool chaps, I think hard back to the beginning, back to rocking myself to sleep in the corner, my head beating stiffly against father's knee. I'll just read one more. It's called Love Poem. Pooling on patterned linoleum, fluid drips from her open mouth like spoiled milk, chunky. I clean it up every afternoon just before it seeps underneath the wall at the corner of the room, the rate of flow a constant. After picking up Mom at the bowling alley, buying fresh eggs at the store, sandblasting the graffiti down there, I'm back to clean it up. I love this life. I love the wife. Her broken fingernails grate against my skin like steel rims against pavement, screeching, bleeding hell.